mean, they will help set you up. I mean, you know, on the surface, it looks like they're doing you great favors.
Yeah.
They're great at that.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. And that's in every area of activity.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, in economics, they do the same thing. In economics, set you up. And you think that you're going to be sailing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You're going on, you know, hey, this is going to, but see, you don't see what's coming around the corner.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right?
Mm-hmm.
In education, same thing. We are educating you people. Come into our schools and we're going to teach you this and teach you that. All right? You got to be able to read. You should go because you don't have any options anyway. All right? Because they are going to teach you a lot of things that are very useful. But along with that, they're going to do what? That's where the poison comes in.
That's where the poison comes
See,
in.
when they're teaching you something,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to put a little bit of poison in it. In economics, when they're giving you something, a stack of money.
Welcome to Male Reality Lessons, where topics are reviewed and discussed as iron sharpens iron. Greetings. Before we step into today's video, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Male Reality Lessons. We're a new channel and we're trying to grow. On today's episode, we're going to talk about truth. Ironically, Cat Williams has the internet all ablaze when it came down to him speaking the truth about Hollywood and the comedians in the industry. But more importantly, our focus is today on why the family, and specifically the black family, is in shambles. So let's talk about it.
When they're giving you something, a stack of money, somewhere in that, they got some cyanide or something between the stacks.
Yes.
All right? It's poison in everything that they approach you with. Economics, education, entertainment. Oh, you want to be a black entertainer. Oh, okay. They come on in. They dress you up, and they just say, how much money do you want? You know, you're going to make this movie, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. See, but at the same time, they're going to put just a little bit. They don't have to put much because poison has a way of doing what? Spreading.
Spreading.
All right? So in everything that they got all glitzy and very attractive and all painted up and all suited up and extravaganzas all over the place and whatnot, they put just a little bit of poison in there, and you don't even notice it, but that poison begins to spread.
You can't make this shit up, people.
And the next thing you know, what you started out to be a festive occasion is going to turn out to be a total disaster.
Total disaster.
Somewhere down the road. And that's in every area of activity.
Right.
You've got to understand the system of white supremacy, what it is and how it works. See, direct violence is when they just walk up and shoot you in the head.
Okay, boom, yeah. Okay.
That's a done deal.
Yeah.
You know, that doesn't call for a whole lot of explanation. You don't scratch your head about
Right.
that trying to figure out what that's about.
Okay.
You're dead. That's what that's about.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Now, the other is, and that's the one that they really like because they can stretch it out and whatnot and enjoy it more. You know, when they kill you, you're just dead. They're just dealing with a dead body now. You know, that's over right now. But when they can confuse you over decades, just keep confusing you, having you doing stupid stuff and you don't know how stupid it is, okay? And they're just laughing all the way at your stupidity, at our stupidity,
Yes, sir.
at my stupidity, at all black people's stupidity. because we're supposed to be stupid forever. Okay? And how do you keep people stupid forever? Having them doing stupid things and think that they're doing something great. And they do that through confusion. By telling you that it's great. Anything stupid that a black person does, the white supremacists will walk up and say, keep it up, all right? I mean, and stupidity to your detriment. You're actually harming nobody but yourself and other black people, all right? Mass stupidity. So they'll help you do that in all areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Anything that they see a black person has a talent for doing or has a proclivity, a desire to do.
Yes, sir.
They'll look at it and they'll help you do it as long as they can figure out a way to make it non-constructive. All right? That's the thing to watch for. It's what you're doing. Is it constructive or is it non-constructive? And you should ask yourself, if it's constructive, how is it constructive? What does it actually produce that has a constructive effect? Stay in that question mode and ask yourself these questions as you go along doing whatever it is you're doing. Is this constructive? And if it is constructive, how is it constructive?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right? You should ask yourself that question all day long, every day, regardless of what you're doing. Ask yourself, this thing that I'm doing, is it constructive? Or is it non-constructive? Because there's no such thing as in between. Every move that every creature makes, birds, bees, people, alligators, is going to have a constructive effect or a non-constructive effect
Okay.
on something or somebody.
That incredible commentary came from a very known veteran, activist, writer, and author, Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and the cartoonist comes from the Hip Hop Cartoon YouTube channel. Very good channel that makes information of this nature very palatable, since we know most people are visual learners. We will close out with a final clip based on a documentary that deep dives into how we got here and the family structure being dissolved.
As of 1960, 2/3 of all Black American children were living with both parents. That declined over the years until only 1/3 were living with both parents in 1995. So it's not the legacy of slavery that destroys the African American
It's
family.
the legacy of the welfare state.
Between 1890 and 1950, the marriage rate was much higher among Black women than white women. A fraction of Black children lived in homes without their fathers. But everything changed with the expansion of the welfare state. It divided the household and created a dependency on welfare. This kind of reminds me of what President Reagan said.
I've always felt the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
So, what happened? What's the mechanism? Here is a detailed look at how the welfare state played a role in the dissolving of the family structure over the years. People say that the breakdown of traditional family units, family structures, is a byproduct of Black poverty, not just because there is no man to support the family financially, but also because women tend to earn less than men on average. Of course, the connection between the two is there, but it goes deeper than that. Welfare was a mean little business. It was designed to get people by in a pinch. Public assistance programs, like welfare entitlements, have been a part of American culture since the 1940s. Unfortunately, like in many other aspects of government institutions, Black Americans were left out. In time, Black people could also get financial support, but it wasn't easy. Mothers who applied for checks had to let social workers inspect their homes to see if their conditions were suitable for welfare. These workers also had to make sure no man was living in the house. But even if they qualified for support, the amount they received was meager and not enough to build a stable life. In the early 1960s, welfare was not yet common, even in the most impoverished Black communities. In the decade that followed, the number of Black people on welfare went up by 169%. They further increased by 30% from 1970 to 1975. In 1972, New York City, almost 1 out of every 6 residents was on welfare. A major portion of these households were black. Although black people were only around a tenth of all Americans, they made up almost 50% of all welfare recipients by the late 70s. A recent UNICEF report showed that many children under 18 in America struggle financially, and African American children are nearly 4 times more likely to be in poverty than white children. Though the number of families receiving cash assistance has decreased since 1996, child poverty rates for black children in the US remain high. This outcome is not by accident. I studied the evolution of social welfare policies in the US from the New Deal to the 1996 reforms and found that these policies have been discriminatory from the start, and a lot of people can confess to that. This led many black families to fall into cultural and economic ruin. In a short period, healthy black people started relying on government assistance to achieve some level of normalcy. But within the city slums, that normalcy was impossible to get. Black children barely knew their fathers, and most were raised by unemployed and unmarried mothers stuck in a cycle of poverty and modest paychecks. This marked a significant shift in black American history. The consequences were severe for the next generation.
If you made it this far and you're enjoying the video, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Male Reality Lessons.
Let's start with the Social Security Act of 1935. It was introduced during Franklin Roosevelt's administration. It was designed to create the safety net in the country, safeguarding families from losing their income. It was viewed as a significant part of New Deal reform and paved the way for federal protections in the future, such as the Affordable Care Act and Medicare. This policy had 2 main parts. The first part had social insurance programs that provided financial support to dependents of deceased or incapacitated workers and Social Security for retired older Americans. The second part comprised means-tested public assistance programs, initially known as Aid to Dependent Children and later renamed Aid to Families with Dependent Children. In 1962, under the Kennedy administration, ideally, it was believed that as the overall quality of life in the country improved, more families could support themselves without needing financial assistance from the ADC program. Eventually, the ADC program would become unnecessary and gradually phase out on its own. But this posed a major problem for Black Americans. Like any other component of the New Deal, the origins of the Social Security Act were deeply rooted in racism. During the 1930s and 1940s, Black people had to deal with widespread racial discrimination in the workplace. They held low-paying jobs, often paid in cash and off the books. This made them ineligible for social insurance programs. The ADC program was an extension of state-run programs that supported widowed mothers, but mostly benefited white widows. The states decided eligibility and need, and since the separate but equal doctrine was in place, Blacks were still excluded from fully participating. Jim Crow laws and the separate but equal doctrine led to a system with different services for whites and Blacks. But as we all know by now, they were far from equal. States made efforts to cut down ADC enrollment and costs. They proposed residency requirements to prevent Blacks from the South from qualifying for the program. In 1935, there was a hearing on a bill, and the NAACP, an organization that fights for civil rights, expressed their concerns. Southern politicians wanted to exclude agricultural and domestic workers from the bill. This meant that many Black workers couldn't get the support they needed. This exclusion would particularly affect Black sharecroppers and cash tenants, who were already struggling to make ends meet. Even though the NAACP was highly against it, the Social Security Act was approved. That's why 65% of African Americans nationwide were not eligible for benefits, and an even larger percentage of these Black families in the South were excluded from the program. In the 1950s and 60s, things got even worse for Black families. Welfare checks incentivized single-mother households, and there was one rule that ruined it all: the man-in-the-house rule. Black families have long been the victims of income inequality and bad government policies. The irony, of course, is that conservatives pushed Black mothers to break their families to get welfare. Before 1968, many states and administrative agencies created and enforced the man-in-the-house rule. This rule basically meant that if there is a working or healthy man in the house, the government can't help you. And they would go as far as to send welfare workers to visit the homes without warning to check if a man was present. If they found any evidence whatsoever, families lost their welfare benefits. Over the years, the welfare state started dissolving the family structure, slowly but surely. A man who can't get a decent job and provide a substantial income suddenly believes that his family is better off without him. So, if a man were to lose his job, he literally had to leave the house so his children could get government surplus peanut butter, beans, and cheese. On the other hand, if either the woman or the man, or both, were irresponsible, they faced no consequences for their actions. And it was the taxpayers who ended up paying for it. These things aren't exactly designed to keep the marriage intact. They are meant to divide people. The harm done to the children was massive.
I will close this video out and leave you with this. A house divided cannot stand. And for those who are, in their heart, truly good women and good men, we have to come together in order to stand up at all the outside forces that come against what we know as a traditional family. Obviously, if this does not get course corrected, the chaos that ensues today, day after day, violence from youth, dysfunctional women and men running amok in the streets will only get worse. I know some men have chosen to go elsewhere, but for those who choose to stay, it is your responsibility to interact with those who are of like mind and ilk. A man is the lead, a woman is in a support capacity, and the two come together to produce children, ultimately together to become productive citizens of society. Yet, I want to hear from you in the comment section. Give me your thoughts on the information provided, and how do you feel about the future that lies before us. As always, I want to thank you for watching. Please subscribe to Male Reality Lessons. Take a moment to check out some other videos here on the channel. And have a good day.